Hey everyone, I'm here with my awesome brother Jonathan. He's known as J-Man here on YouTube, and I am Robert, known of course on YouTube as Rodimus Prime. And today we're going to be debating a really cool question from Star Wars, and that is, did Anakin Skywalker intentionally let Rush Clovis die in Star Wars The Clone Wars? So before we dive into debating that, I'm going to go ahead and go over some background for Clovis and discuss a little bit of his history with Anakin. If you want to skip past that and go right into the debate, you can go ahead and use the chapters that I've put in this video, or you can skip ahead. The background will last about 7 minutes or so. But, of course, if you want to listen to the background, let's go ahead and dive into it.
So, Clovis was born to human parents on the planet Scipio, which is the homeworld of the Mun species and a very important planet for the banking clan. Clovis's family were servants to a very prominent and wealthy Mun family, but unfortunately, when Clovis was still a young kid, his parents tragically died in a shuttle accident. But fortunately for Clovis, the head of that Mun family decided to adopt Clovis as his own son, and he gave him a very good upbringing. And of course, due to the influence of this family, Clovis was able to rise through the ranks of government very quickly, and before long, he became the senator for both the planet Scipio and for the banking clan in the Galactic Republic Senate. Padmé Amidala, the senator for Naboo, actually entered the Senate around the same time as Clovis, and the two became acquainted and worked on some projects together. Clovis actually fell in love with Padme, but Padme did not feel the same way for him, so when Clovis made advances on her, she rejected him, and they actually ended up moving their separate ways. Years later, now during the time of the Clone War, both of them were still in the Senate, but this time, apparently Clovis was no longer the senator for Scipio, and he was exclusively the senator for the banking clan. At this time, Clovis is actually having some dealings with the Separatists. The banking clan was actually a neutral party during the Clone War, so they had kind of equal, like at least publicly, they had equal dealings with both the Republic and the Separatists. Some, simple financial deals where they gave loans to both. But Clovis was much more heavily involved with the Separatists, and something that was definitely inappropriate, I'm sure illegal, considering that he was, a senator of the Republic Senate while also doing all this stuff with the Separatists. And the Jedi Council suspected that Clovis was involved with the Separatists, so they asked Padmé Amidala to spy on Clovis, and in order to do that, Padme actually rekindled her love with Clovis to get close enough to him to see if she could find evidence against him. So, at this time, Anakin is obviously married to Padme, and this ends up being Anakin's introduction to Clovis, which does not go well at all, because even though it's not public knowledge, he is married to Padme, and obviously he doesn't like Clovis, making moves on his wife. While Padme is pretending to love him again, Clovis still genuinely is in love with Padme. So Padme and Anakin go along with Clovis to Cato Nemoidia while Clovis is on a business trip, and he's dealing with his whole separatist deal in secret. And Padme actually does find hard evidence against Clovis and is able to expose him, as a separatist conspirator and expose the whole plan. It was basically a plan, Clovis had with Lot Dodd of the Trade Federation and Poggle the Lesser of Geonosis to construct a droid factory for the separatists on Geonosis. So Clovis was ousted from the Republic once it was public knowledge that he was dealing with the separatists, and of course the droid factory was discovered, so the Republic was able to take action against it. Then, this was Season 2 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Clovis doesn't come back until Season 6, when Padme is actually on a business trip to Scipio for dealings between the Republic and the banking clan. Clovis actually, gets in contact with Padme during this time again, and then he actually reveals to Padme that the banking clan actually is very corrupt, and there's a lot of corruption going on, and Padme reluctantly works with Clovis to try and expose this corruption. While they're working on exposing it, they actually end up, they actually go back to Coruscant, and they do a whole investigation to find out what's going on and try and uncover evidence. Clovis, at this point, again tries to, force himself on Padme, force this romance that Padme is still, not wanting. And then Clovis is trying to force a kiss with her. Anakin walks right in the room and gets, furious. And he attacks Clovis, and they get into a whole fist fight. And Clovis puts up a good fight, but of course, Anakin is a Jedi Knight and an insanely skilled mixed martial artist. So he, kicks Clovis's ass, and Clovis needs to go see a medical droid. And while he's seeing a medical droid, in private, Count Dooku is actually able to get in contact with Clovis and he offers him hard evidence to expose the corruption in the banking clan. Why does he have this? Well, because Count Dooku and Darth Sidious are actually involved in a lot of the corruption in the banking clan. Clovis doesn't obviously know about Sidious and all the, inner workings of this corruption, but Count Dooku reveals enough to say, like, hey, I can actually give you hard evidence of this corruption. It'll oust the current leaders. They're called the Core 5. And not only that, but he says he can guarantee the Separatists will vote in favor of Clovis becoming the next leader of the banking clan. So Clovis can try and take the banking clan in whatever direction he wants. And so he offers that to Clovis. Clovis accepts, and of course now he gets the evidence from Count Dooku, and somehow, without mentioning Dooku, of course, he's able to, expose to the public all this corruption. The Core 5 is ousted, and as Dooku promised, the Separatists support Clovis being the new leader. The banking clan also supports him, and then the Republic follows, and they also vote to put Clovis in as the new leader of the banking clan. So Clovis ascends to being the new leader of the banking clan, but unfortunately, it doesn't last long for him. Count Dooku, of course, has him basically as a pawn now. He has a lot of stuff to hold over Clovis's head, and he basically forces Clovis to raise interest rates on the Republic, which of course the Republic is infuriated by, and then Count Dooku launches a separatist invasion of Scipio to take over the banks of the banking clan. And of course this just paints Clovis as a separatist conspirator, which is easy to believe considering his past where he actually did conspire with the separatists. He's not conspiring with them in this case really in the way that everyone thinks he is, but again, his reputation is really bad at this point. So the Republic launches an invasion of Scipio to take the planet back from the Separatists. They do that successfully, and Anakin goes up to Clovis's office, in this big, banking clan building on Scipio. Padmé's already there, and Anakin has like a kind of, standoff with Clovis. There's the three of them up there, Padmé, Anakin, and Clovis, and a vulture droid gets shot down by a clone pilot and crashes into the building, which knocks the office, off of, the top of the building. It collapses, and all three, Padmé, Anakin, and Clovis are sliding down like a slope and about to fall off the top of this giant building. Anakin's able to, gain his footing. He's able to grab both Padmé and Clovis before they fall off the edge. But, of course, Anakin is in a very precarious situation himself, and he says he can't pull both of them up. So Clovis volunteers to let go of Anakin and fall to his death in order to save Padmé, so Anakin can actually pull her up. So, despite a roller coaster of a life with highs and lows, Clovis ends up going out on, I would say a high note, a noble note, as he falls to his death.
So, Anakin claimed that he was physically unable to save both Padmé and Clovis. He couldn't support the weight of both of them. But the big question is that actually true? So, was Anakin genuinely unable to lift them, or was he lying? The big question of, did he intentionally let Clovis die? I think the answer is yes. I think he did intentionally let him die. What do you think?
I think yes, because Anakin has shown amazing feats of strength in combat under extreme situations of stress. In the Mon Calamari arc in the Clone Wars, he brought down an entire building by destroying the supports while being shot at by aqua droids, and he can't lift two people over a ledge on the side of a building is not true. I think he was lying.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all the points you made, Jonathan. The whole building thing and plenty of other amazing feats of using the Force. Anakin's insanely powerful. He's been at it for a long time. Because, I get it. It's a stressful situation. It all happened very fast for, the building to start collapsing for Anakin, Padmé, and, Clovis to be thrust into this dangerous situation really quick. But Anakin's trained for this. Anakin's been a Jedi for most of his life since he was a young kid. He's been in countless battles, countless dangerous situations, stressful situations. And he's had tons of time to hone his abilities with the Force. And we've seen all of this. He's insanely powerful with the Force. He's more than used to all these kinds of situations. He's always on the front lines during the Clone War. So he is a battle-hardened veteran, really. And there's no reason to believe that he didn't possess, the mental state or the Force power to be able to pull this off. So I think he easily had the power. He could have lifted probably 10 people off that ledge, to be honest. Two human beings, obviously for a real person, even for, a strong adult, obviously pulling up two people from that position would be probably near impossible, right?
Yeah.
But for someone like Anakin, who's insanely powerful with the Force, right, then it shouldn't really be a problem at all.
It shouldn't. No.
So, I think I think Anakin's lying. I don't think he should not have had any problem lifting Clovis and Padme simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of moves us more into motive. So why did Anakin do this? What do you think? What was his motive here?
I think when Anakin came into the room when Clovis was trying to kiss Padme, I think that's really what set him over the edge, because as we've seen before, Anakin really has disliked Clovis in general, but when he was trying to make a move on his wife and kiss her, I think that drew the line for Anakin and just set him over the edge. It set him over the edge enough to where he nearly would have killed him if Padme wasn't there and convinced him to stop beating him up in the fight in the penthouse.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And as I covered in my background, this was not an isolated incident either. This had been happening multiple times. I mean, Padme had a history with Clovis, as I already said, and there were multiple instances where he tried to make moves on her, and that really obviously didn't go over well with Anakin. And on top of that, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Anakin is pretty devoted to the Republic cause, right? And Clovis has conspired with the Separatists in the past. So not only does Anakin dislike Clovis for the stuff with Padme, but also just for conspiring with the Separatists, his enemy, the people he's on the battlefield with day in, day out. I mean, these are the people who kill clones left and right around him and have probably killed other people he cares about. And these enemies of his are people that Clovis has worked with and supported before. So I think there's a lot of reasons why Anakin hates Clovis. So I think there's a lot of motive there. But what I find peculiar, kind of peculiar is is it enough to drive him to want to kill him? Because we saw, I mean, in that fight, he did come close to really getting near to killing Clovis, but he stopped himself, and Padme was there to help him stop, but I still think he regretted his actions. Even though he hates Clovis, I think he regretted it, so it's a pretty big leap for him to go from, feeling remorse for beating him up to actually wanting to intentionally kill him, but maybe the whole plot with, conspiring with the Separatists again threw him over the edge. And of course, what the sad thing is, it actually wasn't like Yoda said. Not all is as it seems, right? In this arc, Clovis was basically manipulated by Count Dooku. You know, so I mean, he did take information from Count Dooku willfully, and that's not ideal, of course. But at the end of the day, he didn't plan that whole Separatist invasion on Scipio and stuff. So, but if Anakin really bought into that and believed it, that just added more fuel to the fire of hatred for Clovis. So. I guess, I mean, it's very clear that Anakin disliked Clovis. And as we've said before, I think the evidence is pretty clear that Anakin absolutely had the power to save him. So it looks very clear that he did intentionally let him drop, right? He hates Clovis, and there's no reason he shouldn't have been able to lift him up. So I think it's a pretty overwhelming case. It just seems kind of weird to me, that he would want Clovis to die. Even though he hates him so much, that's a pretty big step to take.
It is. We can also see when Anakin was escorting Padme and Clovis onto the passenger ship, he clearly intentionally broke the seat next to Padme so that Clovis could not sit next to her. And, when he tried to lean over to kiss her, he suddenly swerved the ship to the side to throw him back against the seat.
Yeah, that was a funny scene.
It was.
From that and just tons of encounters over the entire Clone Wars, the entire... history between Anakin and Clovis is very negative. Those two definitely don't like each other. So, yeah, but I guess on the other hand, one little side note I kind of want to mention is I do kind of wonder almost if the showrunners maybe made a mistake here, because of course, I mean, it was a dramatic scene, right, to have this interesting dilemma where Anakin can't hold both of them up and one of them has to decide to drop, and Clovis does. It made, a really meaningful moment and allowed Clovis to actually kind of go out in a noble way. Right, after having, done some good things in his life and some bad things, he was at least able to kind of go out on a high note. But, I kind of almost wonder if, did the showrunners, while trying to create this kind of meaningful moment, did they actually kind of overlook the fact that Anakin could easily use the Force? In other words, I mean, is this actually maybe a mistake on the part of the writers of the episode? Could they have possibly maybe just overlooked the fact that Anakin could have saved them and just to kind of, make this scene meaningful?
I think that is a possibility, but it could be argued either way. Although there are a lot of animation errors in many different shows, be it the Clone Wars or any animated show for that fact, they always make errors when making them. But I think, especially since this is a very dramatic scene, one that involves the death of a character, I feel like they would have reviewed this enough to realize that, Anakin is a very powerful Force user, and the people that animate the show know this, because that's the reason why they're working for an animation company to animate the show, because they love Star Wars.
Yeah.
So they know
I agree.
Anakin's power.
Dave Filoni and all the people involved in these shows are very, very knowledgeable, and I think they take a lot of time to make these right, to make them the right way. So I agree with you, and especially since, like you said, it's such a pivotal moment. I mean, it's probably a scene they probably spent a lot of time writing and animating and doing the voice work for. So it's hard to believe that they would have overlooked such a huge factor. Like, oh, wait a minute, Anakin's a Force user, right? Yeah. So it's hard to believe that. So I just wanted to throw it out there, but I agree with you. I don't think they would have overlooked that. So many people being involved in it and them spending so much time on it. There's no way, there was, no one, realized, right? So I think our conclusion is, I think pretty sound. I think so Anakin absolutely had the ability to save Clovis, right? Yeah, he has the Force power. He definitely could have saved him. And, but he didn't, right? He had the power, but he didn't. Clovis dropped. And then also, there was some motive there. Anakin definitely did not like Clovis at all. Definitely. So we have, a very strong reason to believe Anakin could have saved him, and we know that Anakin dislikes Clovis. So I think it's a very sound conclusion to come to, that Anakin did in fact intentionally let Clovis die. So thank you all so much for watching. What do y'all think? Let us know. Do you agree with what Jonathan and I have said here? Do you feel maybe a bit differently? Let us know, and thank you so much for watching.